Hello, welcome to another briefing. I wanted to start out this briefing by just talking a little bit about the temperature roller coaster that we've experienced in the Bay Area in general, but I'm going to focus on my personal weather station at my home in northern Sausalito. And I just wanted to show here, so you're looking at a lot of the month of September here. You're looking at the very top of the bars, which are the maximum temperature for each day. A lot of days did not get out of the 60s, as you can see, for a good stretch of September. And then we had a few heat spikes. We had like a few one-day rapid warming events where we had rapid warming of the atmosphere and a light offshore wind component, which warms and dries the atmosphere and wipes out it wipes out the marine influence from most areas. Now, depending on how strong the offshore flow is and how strong the high pressure is, that'll determine how far out to the coast the heat will tend to make it. But we do, where I'm located, there are quite a bit of hills in between me and the coast. So I do tend to warm up. My neighborhood does not get as hot as some inland locations, but it does tend to warm up more than the coast. Anyways, we had a heat spike up to 99 degrees on the 23rd of September, and then down to 79, and then 65 again, 72, and then another heat spike on the 27th up to 96 degrees, and then down to 70, 66 the day after that, and then right back up. We had the start of this latest heat wave on September 30th. We had a temperature of 98.6 on that day 1 of the heat wave. And then day 2, we had 106 degrees. That was more than, quite frankly, even I thought we were going to experience here. I thought we would maybe get close to 100, maybe hit 100, but 106 I really did not see coming. And then we had 100.4 the next day. It's that those consecutive days above 100 there. And then we started to have a little bit of a cool down. And I thought, along with a lot of other meteorologists I had watched, a meteorologist, like, I'm just a weather enthusiast, but there are actual meteorologists that I had been following that had also believed that there was going to be that this drop was going to be that the temperature wouldn't go back up as drastically as it ended up going. This was going to be the end of the heat wave. We had a surge of marine air that was making its way up the coast, and that ended up not materializing itself because the high pressure system built right back in, offshore winds picked up again, and we had another spike. After a little bit of relief, going from 100 to 88 to 85, we went right back up to 102.6 on October 5th, which was this past Saturday, and then we had 106 again, 106 degrees, tying the all-time record. I did not think after that one, I did not see 106 coming the first time. I certainly didn't see it happening again, and it did. We had 106 degrees. We had an overnight low of 68.7, which is also very, very high for this location, and a lot of people do not have air conditioner, and this kind of heat is dangerous. You have 102, 80, 106, 102 again. We had on October 7th, you had 3 consecutive days above 100 degrees in an area that some years doesn't really even hit 90. Last year, I think we had one day that was around 90 degrees or in the low 90s. So, like, this is very intense oppressive heat, especially where a lot of people don't have air conditioners, especially those are elderly and more at risk for heat stroke and such. Thankfully, we did have a cool down for real an actual cool down the next day, where a more large scale low pressure system in the upper levels of the atmosphere was able to finally break that heat dome, switch the wind flow to a more persistent onshore wind, and bring back that cooler, moist ocean air that is usually prevailing over the Bay Area. Temperature went right back down to 78 after 102. That's a 24-degree drop. And then next day it was 67.6. And then the next day, so far today we have 63.5, and I don't think we're going to get out of the 60s today either. So just like that, right back to what we usually expect, as if nothing had happened. But this was a very powerful heat wave, and as a matter of fact, the trees outside of my house, of my home, are, you can tell the leaves are, I forget the word for it, but they have sort of, they've anyways, I can't remember the word, but you can see that the leaves have been affected by this heat. They are mushy. They look mushy. They're not at their usual position. They're very mushy, like they've been oppressed by the heat. Like all the trees, they're not, the vegetation, they're not used to the heat either. Anyways, just wanted to share those numbers with you, and I also wanted to, since we're at it, I wanted to show you a different perspective on those numbers. I'll just focus in at my home in Sausalito in this row 15 here, but see, we had two separate rounds. We had 98, we had 106, we had 100, and then we had a bit of a break, 88, 85, and then we had that second round, 102.6, 106, 102, 3 days in a row above 100, and then finally the drop to 78, and then 65. But you can see here how for a lot of inland areas, it was an 8-day heat wave, or 9-day heat wave. For areas at the coast, there were 2 spikes. There was a bit of a cool down in between, but I mean, 90s, look at 94 at Ocean Beach. It was a very intense heat wave for the coast as well. And for areas like San Francisco, it was perhaps an extended warm spell with 2 heat bursts. I would say it's hard to call this whole thing a heat wave because you had low 80s and then you had a little bit of relief here in the middle, but you certainly had, this definitely qualifies as a heat wave, these 3-day consecutive days above 90 in San Francisco at that. This was very intense. Anyways, that's all I have for this video. I'm actually gonna I'm gonna do another video right after this one, getting into the rain chances for the next week or the next couple weeks and what that's looking like. I hope this was helpful. I hope you got something out of this, and thank you for watching.